Today is the 8th of May. We had a big war going on last night in the Persian Gulf. Missiles, drones, the works, everything. Iran firing at three destroyers. They said they hit them. The Pentagon says no. I don't know. I wasn't there. Were you? Um, we hit some of their ports. America hit some of their ports last night. They destroyed a lot of things America did last night. It was a big fight. And Iran also attacked the UAE last night. And the UAE apparently attacked Iran. And they're saying Israel attacked Iran, but there's no credibility for that at this point. I doubt it. And at the same time, Trump is telling us this ceasefire is in effect. The world's in trouble when you got a leader of America engaging in war and talking like that. And we're going to go through what it looks like Trump is trying to do, which is the theater of the absurd at this point, and what Iran's going to do, and what Israel's going to do. And the UAE is already attacking. And we're going to take a look at this story about Saudi Arabia telling America they can't use their base and their airspace. This is getting a little thick, you know? We're going to go through some other things as well. But last night was a hot night in the Persian Gulf. Yeah, the three American destroyers did get out of the Persian Gulf. They did, to the Sea of Oman. And they might stay there or they may move on to the Indian Ocean further away. I don't know. Were any of the ships hit? I don't know. I don't know. If you want to believe Trump, they weren't hit. But does it sound like there's a ceasefire going on now? And Netanyahu has cancer. I think the High Court or the Knesset, one of them, is asking him to submit confidential medical papers. They want to see where Netanyahu stands with the cancer. We'll find out soon, I guess, what it is, but we don't know right now. I mean, he could have cancer of a fingernail or something, or he could have serious cancer. I don't know. I understand why he was trying to keep it secret with an election coming in late October. If we're still in this age when the election comes, it makes much sense to think that Bennett will win it, especially with Netanyahu and the cancer and the criminal cases and everything else. It's a little early now. We're in May. When we get to July or August, the polls are going to start to talk with meaning. Now it's a little early. Not that early, though. The polls will talk with meaning. And if Netanyahu sees himself falling away, he's going to try to make a deal with the prosecutor, with the High Court. But they may not want to make a deal with him. You know, if they see the polls saying, you know, he's got a 29% chance of winning, they may ignore him. And that might be it for him. Then he's got to face his criminal cases when he's not a prime minister, and that's going to mean problems for him. Hey, shut up! Okay, let's take a look at the live stream. Shut up! And see how we're doing. Well, we got people in, and we got sound and picture. We're doing good. And let's turn the sound. All right, I'm going to put a post up real quick here in the chat. If anybody wants to put up a prayer request or toss request or something in the chat, you can. And everything's looking good. And pin this up. Convenient thingy YouTube gives us. And it looks like we're in good shape. Let me close the volume. Now, being a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise, and you certainly can join in. I have no control if anybody does or doesn't. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 There we go. All right, so we had what a night last night. The war was on, rocking and rolling. I mean, it was going bonkers over there, you know. No doubt about it. You know, as if I tell you God used the nations in recent times, these times, to punish Israel, would you have any trouble believing it? None whatsoever, right? Because it's real. He says he's for us, but he's not going to leave us altogether unpunished. When we hit redemption, that's when we get the real land back, okay? Yeah, we're occupying a little bit of a piece of Syria, a little bit of the Golan Heights, things like that, a little bit of Lebanon, but that's not getting the land back. Okay? Netanyahu, true to form, and the Knesset decided not to annex the West Bank, which I'm sure Trump was pushing for. Okay. So, what you're seeing here is you got 90 nations. Shut up! Let me get this stupid dog in. The dog's not. Come on home. Come on home. house bark?
Get over here and look at my face. Oh, don't you talk back to me, don't you do it. Sit down. Sit down. Sit.
They are of the opinion that the yards are their territory because we hardly stay out in the yards, but it's not. Okay. So they're all supporting a Palestinian state. The Palestinian state was being supported in reality by Iran with money, weapons training, weapons, political, diplomatic measures, and violence. It's all violence. And now, this regime, Iran, and its proxies, the Houthis in Yemen, the Hamas in Gaza, which are pretty defunct, and the Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Iran-backed militias in Iraq and Syria. And Syria was a puppet of Iran till Bashar Assad left. Okay. Now the Iranian regime is being turned against the world that was supporting the Palestinian state. Am I wrong? No. It's recompenses. He's using their own garbage against them. That's right. That's right. They let Iran run with its evil deeds. And now Iran is wrecking the world. Do you know reports are coming in? Now, you're not going to get this from the White House or the Pentagon, which means it's not going to be in Reuters and the Wall Street Journal and the Post and everything. Okay. The Iranians have a problem because they can't get their oil out in any quantity. They're sending trains of oil to China. It's estimated that they're doing about 37,000 barrels of oil on a train. If they were sending 3 trains a day, which I really doubt, they would be sending about 100,000 barrels a day out, which is the equivalent of one small oil tanker, a mini oil tanker, okay? Nothing. Now, do I think there's a chance that they're doing that? I mean, they got a snowball's chance on a 4th of July beach barbecue that they're getting 3 trains a day out. Maybe 3 a week. That's nothing. Okay. Nothing. So, their oil tanks that are getting fed by the pipeline are overflowing or full in their island where they deliver 90% of their oil. Carb Island. That's where the ships pull up and stuff. It's 15 miles from Iran. It's full. So what were they doing? They're filling old oil tankers with oil. Right? Okay. What did that do? It bought them a few days, really. Then what? They're dumping the oil in the Red Sea. I talked about this before I heard reports that was going on. You're not going to get a confirmed, verified news story on this, because confirmed, verified news story means the rich people's media, the government media confirms it, and they're not going to confirm it because the government's not going to tell them that, because it's going to make it look like Trump is contributing to an ecological disaster in the Persian Gulf, which it is. Okay? And that's one of the big reasons why Trump is running around like a bozo the clown, telling us the ceasefire is still in effect when the missiles and the drones and the bombs are flying all over the place. Okay? Trump doesn't have steadfast determination to get the victory, like Stormin' Norman did when they were fighting the Iraq War in the early 90s. The general, like Patton, like MacArthur. I will return. They don't have, Trump doesn't have that determination. He wanders around. Okay? It's like he wants to buy a guy's 60-story office building. And maybe the building's doing great and the guy wants to retire. He's got health issues, family issues. He doesn't want it anymore. But he wants too much money for it. So Trump keeps waiting and going in and lowballing him, you know, stuff like that. Well, this is not the same type of thing. Okay? And I don't think we could teach Trump that. I don't think this old dog, she's ever going to learn new tricks. I know what I said. And it ain't going to go nowhere. And now they're dumping oil. Because if they shut down their wells and their refineries and their pipelines, the oil is going to decompose and break up into components like wax and gunk up the works, which might take months or a year to undo. So Trump really is trying to put a lot of pressure on them. But Trump doesn't understand. They said yesterday, the Iranians, Trump doesn't understand that we'll sooner die than surrender. He doesn't understand. Okay? MacArthur understood that with the Japanese, and then he got vicious with them. Vicious. And they threw the towel in. Germany kept going like that. And then America was carpet bombing day and night with atmosphere bombs. Dresden, Hamburg, Berlin, and killing the people, the civilians. Then that came to an end. Okay? Things didn't come to an end until they got vicious. Trump started to get vicious, and he started talking vicious. I'll blow your electrical generators out. I'll blow your water desalination plants apart. See, he knew what to do, but he wouldn't do it. He's conflicted with his drive for money, in this case, oil, black gold. He won't let go. And that's why he can't win. And that's the snare, part of it. He's not winning because he's screwed up and he's conflicted. Okay? I told you this once, I'll tell it to you again. What this Trump character doesn't understand is that the Iranians, if all is going down the tubes for them, they'll blow their own refineries, oil fields, and storage bins up so Trump can't use them. And they'll put a damage on them that would be massive to repair. Make sure Trump can't use it. That's what they'll do. And to punish the world. They hate the world. They hit the UAE again, third day in a row, I believe. And they said more to come for the UAE. And then the UAE turns around and comes up with this Trump's group in Gaza, that he put together. The UAE comes up and says, here's $100 million. Train the new police force for Gaza. Now, $100 million to train a police force for a country or an area with 2 million people is a lot of money. Okay? Now, train probably means uniforms, weapons, some equipment, stuff like that. How many police are they going to put together? Let's think. New York City has about 40,000 on 9 million. They're not gonna. They might put together 4,000 or 5,000. I don't think they'll go to 10,000. That would be max. Maybe they would. But where they're gonna get payroll for 10,000? Qatar ain't gonna pay it. I don't think. Maybe. I don't know. I guarantee you, Israel ain't gonna pay a dime of it. That would be the end of Netanyahu. Unbelievable end to him if he tried pulling a stunt like that. He, in his heart of hearts, might want to do it, but I don't know. Maybe they will, but it's going to put Hamas out of control. Really? Of course not. Hamas isn't disarmed. So they're fighting the militia now, who are going to be transformed into the police, obviously, plus others maybe, and no Hamas. But Hamas will keep shooting at him. Trump refuses to disarm them because he's got another conflict in his sick mind, and that is he wants a Nobel Peace Prize. And he doesn't know what he's doing. The snare again. You can't deal with Iran and want to get a Nobel Peace Prize out of it. The only way you're going to put Iran down is to hammer the daylights out of them. Iran by now is well aware of Trump's shortcomings and limitations and fears. And they're doing whatever they want to do. They're saying now Trump has to come to grips with the fact that there's going to be a new era as to who controls the Persian Gulf, and Trump has to accept it. Let's take a look at Trump's moronic plan that he just submitted to the Iranians, that they said they haven't even bothered to review. Oh, prayer requests, hold on. I'll do the prayer and you guys can agree with it if you're a believer. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for AP, Alpha Papa, AP, Alpha Papa, to continue to walk with the Lord and walk in the path that the Lord has laid out for AP. Okay? So AP to continue to walk with the Lord and walk in the path that the Lord has laid out for AP. And I submit this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you believers can agree with that. Be stronger. Okay. So God is using the nations to punish the nations, and America is one of them. Because America is causing a lot of problems. I checked a little while ago, and the WTI oil was 96, and the Brent was 101. The Justice Department is investigating several very large, like one short order, where someone bought, I think it was 10,000 contracts of oil an hour before Trump made some announcement so he shorted that the price of oil was going to go down. Trump made an announcement, it did go down. And this person made, they think, $124 million in a couple hours. So somebody knew what they were doing. Okay. There's been several like this, so they're investigating it now. Rest assured they'll get a dead end on this. CBS News was saying that the U.S. strikes hit Bandar Abbas and Kashim, described as Iranian ports near the Strait of Hormuz. CBS says multiple U.S. officials told them the U.S. targeted the Iranian ports of Bandar Abbas and Kashim. The CENTCOM statement about what happened last night was emphasizing that the U.S. military was hitting military targets, not simply bombing a civilian port. I would agree with that. Iran is claiming civilian areas and ships were also hit, but that part is disputed. So we're not sure about that part being true, but ships getting hit, I believe the Americans did say something about destroying ships. So that's probably true, but that's a far cry from hitting civilian houses and stuff, you know. Trump's latest proposal. It's a nuclear framework, which I'm completely could care less about. Um, if Iran agrees to it, 30 days of negotiations will begin. Assumptively, it is not supposed to be fighting during negotiations, just like a ceasefire. What a joke. Iran says, well, we're not pursuing nuclear weapons. And they want the dismantling of America wants the dismantling of the Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan facilities. They want a complete ban on underground nuclear activity, so that all has to come to an end. They want inspections on demand with penalties for violations. Never happened. A 20-year freeze on uranium enrichment, reduced from the original demand for a permanent ban. Transfer of all enriched uranium stockpiles. Doesn't say who they're going to transfer them to. Russia, China, that'll be effective. Pakistan, great idea. Reopening of the Straits of Hormuz alongside U.S. easing of the blockade. Not ending it, easing it. Sanctions release based relief. The sanctions relief based strictly on performance, not granted in advance. Well, they're never going to go for that. But it's still an American surrender. They're not stopping their ballistic missiles. They don't care about them killing their own people. They are not stopping the support of the proxies. Not doing anything. Then after this, Trump turns around and says it's too soon for new direct talks. After he reported great progress. This is after, I believe, yesterday's strikes. So, nobody told us that Trump hired the Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey people to do the negotiations. The world's oil supply right now is in trouble, and it's getting worse. Yeah, they can keep suppressing the prices there. Some countries are removing the taxes they put on the gas, right? Others are selling their reserves. Others are rationing. They're trying different approaches. It's going to get worse by the week. The drought level in the United States is now 60% of the states. I don't think they include Hawaii in this. 60% of the states have some form of drought that's not lightweight. So this guy that came to their attention, somebody watched it. Um, I remember years ago in the '80s, I used to play the stock market like with a system, and I had a business I had to run, and I used to carry a ticket tape machine. It was about this big, and I was watching it one day, and about a half a minute before the close of the exchange, I saw 24 million shares of AT&T, which they call telephone, clear a transaction. I can't remember if it was a buy or sell. It's not relevant. It just happened right just before the bell, so nobody could react to it. And then the idea is by the next morning they forget about it. So this guy saw something like that. That's what I think happened. Okay. 24 million shares of telephone back then. I don't know. Telephone was probably $60, $80 a share. It was a lot of money. But it wasn't illegal. I mean, somebody just dumped telephone. I don't know. He didn't want to start a panic of selling telephones, so it could have been one of the executives that had accumulated this as bonuses. I have no idea. So this person, by buying these options, was controlling um, like something like 982 million, almost $1 billion. A billion, this is 1,000 million, almost $1 billion worth of oil. And the short, he opened the short 1 hour before an Axios report that the U.S. and Iran were uh, nearing a deal to end the war. Now, everybody's going to say, yeah, it could be Trump and his relatives. True. It could also be Axios and their friends doing it. Axios, many people, I keep hearing this daily just about, are are saying that it's not a real legitimate source. It maybe used to be, but don't trust it anymore. Too many people talk like that. This could have been a scam that Axios did. $124 million is a lot of money, and Axios could have got 25 million or something like that. You know how hard it would be for that company to make $25 million profit? Hard, hard. Over a year, hard. Profit, I said. The people that discovered it are saying at 3:40 in the morning Eastern time, uh, nearly 10,000 contracts worth of crude oil shorts were taken without any major news. So somebody knew something about what was going to be said in the news before it was said in the news. This is the equivalent of $920 million in value, an unusually large trade for 3:40 in the morning without any news. You see what I'm saying? Okay. At 4:50 in the morning, just 70 minutes later, Axios reported that the U.S. is close to a memorandum of understanding to end the Iranian war. So he was banking on the oil prices going down. The way this works is with a contract, he's basically borrowing oil, the right to control the oil, okay? And with a short, look at it like this, he's borrowing 10,000 contracts of oil worth a huge amount of oil. And he has to pay that back before the contract expires. Let's look at it that way. So what he does is if he buys his short when the oil is $103, right? Then he pays that oil back with oil he now buys at $91, and his profit is the spread between 91 and 103. I hope that makes sense. It's a very artificial, complicated thing, but remember, it's gambling, and all gambling is fixed. Understand that. Oh, if you get together with 3 or 4 of your friends and you're playing some kind of card game, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the big organized gambling. It's fixed. If they couldn't fix it, they wouldn't do it. So if you go to a card parlor and the card parlor takes 7% of the pot and they just provide the dealing and the environment and all that, does that mean they fix it? Well, most likely they do because they can. Okay? The easiest way to fix it is have somebody playing for the house that has demons, and the demons look at the people when they look at their hands. The demons see their hands. That's all. It's not hard to understand. By 7 o'clock in the morning, oil prices had fallen over 12%, with these crude oil shorts gaining approximately $125 million. Brent oil was down as much as 11.9, while WTI oil dropped more than 13%. Around 10:20 a.m., Brent and WTI were down roughly 7% at 101 and 95. So the guy made his move and he sold his shorts. He got out of his short positions, is what he did, and took profit. So he was in a few hours and got himself $124 million. But you see, they're going to sit there and say, what would motivate this guy to make that trade in the middle of the night? See, but you could tell the investigators that I had a conversation with a Securities Exchange Commission lawyer once, years and years ago. And he said to me, if some guy says, oh, AT&T is going to go up 11 points, really, how do you know? My right toe is itching, and the only time it itches is when the price of telephone's going to go up. And he said, I can't prosecute him if they do that. Very hard. But they gotta they got to get you with pre-existing knowledge. If they can prove you had knowledge of something, that's called insider trading. Now, the fact that a newspaper is going to carry a story in an hour and you knew about it and bought your position, that's iffy, guys. Because you didn't get any direct insider information. Trump didn't call you up on the phone and say, well, we're releasing a story about, a peace deal with Iran. No, he didn't do that. They might not have had any contact with Trump. What they had contact with was the newspaper, and they knew the newspaper was going to run the story. So, yeah, they can make a case. I don't know how strong it'll be. Like I told you, nothing's going to come of this. People that had that much money, you know how much money they had to buy a contract. It's a lot of money to buy 10,000 contracts. That people don't have that. Okay. The court in Israel orders Netanyahu to submit sealed medical records in a libel case, saying he'll let Supreme Court disappear one of the politicians if his justice picks are not selected. Netanyahu says, I don't know what's going to happen with that. Netanyahu may just ignore it, you know what I mean? And then what do? I don't know what he'll do, but it looks like he does have cancer. He's not dead. There were rumors he's dead. No, there were rumors that he had cancer. I didn't know about that. Now I did. Don't let him tell you he has prostate cancer. That's not the type of cancer he ever going to have. Okay, Trump administration sows confusion as it tries to reopen. Yeah, okay, reopen the straits. All right. Iraq's oil sector, Iraq, not Iran, Iraq's oil sector. Now, I always say that Iraq and pieces of Syria can be in Elam, the biblical prophecy in Jeremiah 49 for ELAM. They also don't have to be in there. They can be in there and they don't have to be in there. Okay. Iraq's oil sector is experiencing, but I think Iran has to be in there. Is experiencing the greatest collapse in its modern history following the closure of the Straits of Hormuz, with production dropping from over 4 million barrels a day before the war to 1.6 million barrels per day in March. According to SOMO data, exports in April averaged only 310,000 barrels per day, compared with 3.6 million barrels per day in February. So oil revenues in April fell 950 million, while Iraq needs 5.8 billion each month just to cover salaries, pensions, and welfare payments. So your takeaway is rest assured that the world is being wrecked over this gas stuff, okay? You need to get that down, that the whole world is getting wrecked, and they're trying to keep it minimal and make it like everything's okay and it's not okay. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make you think everything's going to be okay. And I don't think Iran is likely to let anything like that happen. Iran wants to make everything not okay and cause as much damage to the world as it can. And people need to know that, and they're not being led to believe that. And I don't think anybody understands. I mean, you guys do, but they don't understand that Iran will destroy their own oil if they go. Now, I think whoever put this bid in and did this and made the $124 million probably has a good reason why they did it, and they're going to explain that to the Justice Department through their lawyer. What they do is these rich people hire a guy like that, sees himself $124 million gain. He's going to budget $2 or $3 million in legal fees. He's going to hire a law firm that, you know, has 8 or 10 people that were lawyers for the Securities Exchange Commission or the Justice Department or whatever for years, and know exactly how they're going to play it, and he'll counter it, you know. So if Trump accepts Iran's terms, it's a complete victory, but it doesn't look like it's moving. Iran wants control of the Persian Gulf, and they're not going to give it up. What Trump's trying to do is, I don't know, it makes no sense anymore. It doesn't. I don't think Trump knows what to do. I think he's overwhelmed. Whichever way Iran turns, it's unexpected. They're suicidal. And he doesn't know what to do. America fought suicidal fighters in the Philippines in the early 1900s, late 1800s, and they figured out what to do. But Trump's not getting it. He's not figuring it out. It's not working with Trump. It's not getting through because he's conflicted. He wants the oil. He wants the Nobel Peace Prize. He's all screwed up. He can't get it going. He can't just go direct because he's got all these deviations. He wants to go this way, this way, this way, this way. Can't do it. And the Iranians, I think, are well aware of his shortcomings. The Iranian currency is recovering over the last 2 days. Okay, let me show you what a joke this is. After being traded at a rate of 1.9 million rial, that's their dollar, to the dollar, 1.9, so in other words, $1 would buy you 1,900,000 Iranian rial, almost 2 million. Well, it recovered, they're telling us. Oh, really? Yes, it's strengthening. And what is the new value? Well, one US dollar now buys you 1,760,000 Iranian rials. It's a joke. It's garbage, If the real, if $1 bought 25,000 real, it would be a joke. $1 buys 1.7 million. It's a joke. It's a huge joke. But it is strengthening, yes. It's got a long way to go. All right. Khalil al-Hayya, head of Hamas Gaza, who, according to Gaza sources, has been chosen to be the next chairman of Hamas's political bureau, not yet officially announced, was interviewed last night on Al Jazeera following last night's strike in Gaza, in which his son was wounded. Okay. Main point on his remarks. Last night's strike's a continuation of the September 9th strike in Qatar on the Hamas negotiating delegation. The strike in which his son Mamam was killed. The occupation wants to achieve gains in the negotiations under pressure, killing, and intimidation. Yeah, as if they're the only ones, right? It's the other side too. We are not afraid of death. We have a just cause. My son is like any member of the Palestinian people. There is no distinction between them. Yeah, sure. And blah, 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 blah. It's a waste of time listening to what these people got to say. Trump says 3 U.S. Navy destroyers transiting out of the Strait of Hormuz under fire, adding that the American destroyers were not damaged. But great damage was done to Iranian attackers. Yeah. Earlier, Trump tells a reporter from ABC News that the recent U.S. strikes were just a love tap, and adds that the ceasefire is going to it's in effect. How can you keep saying the ceasefire is in effect? I don't know. On Truth Social, that's the Trump thing he has. Trump writes that the U.S. attacked Iranian seacraft. Yeah, they're go fast boats. They got attacked. Yeah. I think they hit a place where they tie them up, on like a harbor for them. Iran reports claims signs of hostility were actions by the UAE. Uh, they're saying that the UAE, it seems maybe the UAE was also attacking Iran last night. It might be the case. I don't know. Israel, no, I don't believe it. I would have heard about it if Israel was attacking. Nah, Israel wasn't attacking. I don't believe it. I would really want to find out what happened to those destroyers if they were hit. If the destroyers were hit, what would happen is they'll pull into another country for repairs. If they can go for repairs somewhere. I don't know where. You got me. Maybe India. I don't know. You got me. I don't know. In the past, damaged American ships went to Saudi Arabia to get some repairs and then go move on to the Mediterranean or Greece out there and get more serious repairs. So that might be the case also. Move the ship perhaps with another ship escorting it to Saudi Arabia near the Red Sea or in that area for repairs, and then it gets some makeshift repairs. Now that might be all it needs, is simple repairs. Then it returns to theater, but it may have had a fire and a lot of things were destroyed. It could have been food got destroyed, medical got destroyed, comms, communication got destroyed, hydraulics, anything. And it could be multiples that got destroyed. So the electrical, and maybe the washers and dryers got destroyed, maybe the ovens or something. So then they send it to get quick repairs, and then it goes up to, I think, Greece. They have a base around there where it gets serious repairs. So that could be what's going on. I don't know. But let's see if they move any destroyers like that. That would be what the sign is. Okay? That got hit. Let's find out. I don't know. It may not have got hit. I'm not wishing it got hit. The contrary. I hope it didn't get hit. Rubio announces, enemy of my enemy, right? Okay, I hope it didn't get hit, really. Rubio announces new sanctions on Cuba. Well, I guess Trump's going to get ready to have his soldiers walk into Cuba and take it over. Cuba's saying they're going to fight him tooth and nail. I don't think so. Will the Cuban people be better under the American regime than they are under what Castro left them? Well, probably something like 3 to 5 times better off. Okay, they'll be a lot freer. And yeah, and that's again another case of Trump casinos and resorts. That's what Cuba used to be pre-1959. People would fly down there, or a lot of times they would just take a boat to Cuba from, Boston, New York, any of the ports, Philadelphia, get on a boat, and it was no big trip. from the Keys, Florida Keys, I think you were 90 miles away, which would be a few hours. So I would think if you were going from New York, which would have been the big hub, you would have not quite 2 days. Well, maybe a leisurely trip, 2 days. They took it easy, 2 days to get to Cuba. And if it was winter, which is when Cuba would be flourishing, you'd leave New York with your overcoat and your gloves, right? And you'd get out on the deck of your boat, it'd be freezing, and you'd watch the Statue of Liberty go by and leave the harbor and pull out into the Atlantic, and you'd have miserable weather for probably something like 24 hours or 18 hours, it depends on the weather. But after, let me think, the boats were probably going at about 20 knots back then. So 10 hours was 200 miles. After the first day, you would be noticeably warmer than you were in New York. So you'd probably leave New York around 5 o'clock in the evening. And when you got up in the morning the next day and you opened your balcony 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, you would notice it would still be chilly, but instead of being, 21 degrees, you'd probably have 49 degrees or something like that, right? So you wouldn't be going swimming, but you might go take a walk around on the deck or with a warm coat sit on the deck. By that evening, though, like 8 o'clock that night, you wouldn't be at 49 degrees, you'd probably be at 69 degrees. You'd be like getting Florida weather, or 60s, it'd be nice. And then the next day when you woke up, you'd be in warm weather, 70s or 80s, something like that, right? So then they would go to Cuba, and what would they do in Cuba? Well, standard operating procedure. You had hotels by the beach, right? You had the hotels would have swimming pools. I don't know if jacuzzis were popular. Lay out in the sun, get a tan. That would be a big reason to go to Cuba. You want your tan. Lay out in the sun, drink Mai Tais or whatever they drink. And they'd have entertainment, little bands out by the pool. People coming around with drinks, and you'd be able to get snacks. And they'd have, what else? People would go on excursions into town, shopping into town. They probably had buses that would take you. You wouldn't get mugged or robbed in town. The political system made sure that didn't go on. And at night you had shows. Sometimes you would catch an American entertainer, or much of the time you would have entertainers from Cuba. They would be doing, music and dance and, various things like that. They had a lot of prostitution and strip joints there, which is typical for America. Were you able to buy drugs there? I don't think so. I don't think there was any demand for it. The Cubans might have had drugs, but they weren't. The Americans in the 40s and 50s weren't running around. In the 30s too, they were going there. They weren't. I think the 20s, the 30s, I think. They weren't going around looking for that. Further, I think it was a bigger trip. You were able to go to other Caribbean islands that were very popular. Nassau was one. Bimini was another that was pretty close. I think even closer to America, but way smaller. Jamaica, different places that had resorts there too, and they had boats that would go down there. Now, we're not talking like, I don't know, they had all kinds of things. Sometimes people would, live on the boat. The boat would stay with them several days, so they didn't have to unpack and pack. And they would get off the boat and go to the beach or go lay on the boat, docked up. And, they had all kinds of different twists and turns. People came by airplane, and, you know, you also could go by speedboat. You fly down to Florida or take a train to Florida. And they had, boats that maybe held 10 or 12 people that moved pretty fast. They might have went 40 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour in the open water, and just, and you're there in 2 hours. You sit there on the boat with the vibration and the noise and the racket, enjoying the spray and the fresh sea air, and then you're in Cuba. You're not going to freeze out there because it's warm. I mean, it could be 50 if you're going to do it at night, which they wouldn't do. If you're doing it during the day, it would be at least 60. So it wouldn't be hot, but it could be 80 degrees and be warm. You went to Cuba. So Cuba was a big thing. The mafia moved in on Cuba before they had Las Vegas. They didn't do Cuba. The first one was Bugsy Siegel, the Jewish guys did Las Vegas, the Jewish mafia guys. Meyer, Lansky, and those guys. Reluctantly didn't know what was what, but they invested in the Flamingo Hotel. I think was the first one in the middle of nowhere, and the people went there because they got good entertainment. The mafia knew the entertainers. They got good crackerjack entertainment. They paid them well, and they had the gambling, which was rigged, and they were fleecing the people. So you come over there, and you had a good buffet. You had nice swimming pool. I mean, they had beautiful swimming pools, and the hotel rooms are really nice. You know, but what goes on is the shows are short. They're not going to give you a long show like they would if you went to Shea Stadium or something like that to see some performance, right? There you're going to get a real show. You're not going to get a real long show in Vegas because they don't want you there. You're going to get 45-minute show, or maybe at most an hour at the most. You'd get that, right? Where you get a 2-hour show if you went to a stadium or something. They don't want to give you a long show. They want you out gambling because that's how they make their money. Okay, but Vegas changed. Vegas gets a lot of people now that gamble, and they give them the star and the moon up above, Vegas style. They give them a free room if you're dumb enough to gamble a lot of money away. They'll give you a suite. If you're really a moron, they'll give you a grand suite. If you're really a moron, they'll pick you up on a jet. If you're not such a moron, just a lightweight moron, they'll send a jet to pick you up, and then it'll fly to another city and another city. They'll pick 2 or 3 other people up, strangers, and you probably get into a card game with them on the plane or something, and then they would fly you to Vegas. Uh, they do that. Then people fly themselves in. They'll give you a ticket to come sometimes. They'll give you a first class ticket or a business class ticket or a coach ticket. It depends what your points are, they have scientific formulas, marketing formulas to rate you. Like what kind of an idiot are you? How much do you lose, right? If you're a doctor that does expensive surgeries, you make $3 or $4 million a year, and you like to go out there and drop $250,000 every year. Oh, they're going to take good care of you, you know. But it's stupid. What are they going to do? They're going to give you free food. No, anything you want: caviar, shrimp, lobster, steaks. So if you're there for 3 days, they might give you $1,000 worth of food, and you're going to lose $250,000, right? And they'll give you a suite, so you lose $5,000 or $8,000 in the hotel room. It's a joke. But you see, the new Vegas has a lot of people that don't go there just to gamble. Okay? This is the new Vegas that started when? Probably around 95, maybe 98, around there, 97, 95. What is the new Vegas got? Well, they got shopping malls, discount shopping malls, regular shopping malls, huge, huge. And you go to the discount malls, you get name brand clothing typically for 20 to 40% off. So it's like catching it on a sale in a department store, but it's every day, right? Okay, so you're gonna save a little bit. You're not gonna walk away, getting something that's 75% off. Um, the food. Eh, Look, do I really think Vegas got food like San Francisco or New York has food? No, no. They got good food, but they're not San Francisco and New York. They don't got that kind of good food. Um, are the hotels nice? The hotels are great. About as nice as you'd want to get a hotel. That's what they got. Uh, oh, the show's good. The shows are great, but they're short. You sit down, you watch. I've been there. You sit down, you watch the show, and it's going well, and you're having a good time, and then all of a sudden the show's over. Boom, it's over. It's time to leave, right? That's how they do it. People go. A lot of women go there, and they got the spa, beauty parlors, all of that stuff. And they go there and they do that while the husband blows the money away. But a lot of people don't really gamble, or they'll just take $10 or $20 and they'll go play slot machines while they're waiting to do something. They're not gonna. You're not gonna sit there and go in and buy $1,000 worth of chips like an idiot. And then what do they do? Uh, that's it. I don't know. But you got amusement parks now of a sort in Vegas. You got all kinds of shows you could see, like circuses and everything. There's lots of things you can do there. I mean, it's got all sorts of things. You know, I was looking for a place to live in the '90s, the late '90s in America, and I looked at Las Vegas, and I passed on it because it was. I didn't like their gun control. If you were outside of the city of Las Vegas, I think the city and county and the suburbs, the gun control was pretty cool. But in there, it was different. I didn't care for it. Also, I don't think the casinos wanted you going in with a gun. So if you went there and you went in with you had a permit and everything, and you went in there, you were basically trespass. So if they saw you had a gun or something, they'd probably throw you out and ban you for life. Yeah, stuff like that. So you'd have to leave your gun in your car. That they wouldn't care about. Uh, and so what are you gonna? You're gonna go there and you're gonna eat the buffet. Well, the buffets, if you go back to the '70s, they were $5, $6 for buffets. Breakfast was $2, $3 for a buffet where they had everything. You know, but you go there today, you want a dinner buffet. It's 40 to $150 depending on the place. That's not so nice. $50 is about right for a buffet, but what do you want is drop $50 and go there? I'm not going to gorge myself with food and blow my stomach up and feel bad for the rest of the day because I spent $50. It's stupid. See, they did that in it. So, I said to myself, there's nothing to do there. I'll go to the buffets, you know, that I'll never get tired of. I'll go to different buffets, but they're too stinking expensive. So how often would I go? And the restaurants are not cheap there. They're fleecing. So then I started thinking, I'm going to go see the shows. So I'll see 15 shows over 6 months or a year, and then I probably won't bother going to the shows, but maybe once or twice a year. So I mean, it's stupid. I wrote that off. And you're dealing with people that live to gamble around there. A lot of people that work there because they love gambling. I think gambling is boring and stupid. I don't have any point in it. But I mean, I just thought it was a stupid idea. Then I thought about going to New York, and I penciled out what it would. I was in the world making good money. I penciled out what it would cost to live in New York, and this was a long time ago, almost 30 years ago or around that, and maybe less, maybe 25, 30, probably about 30 years. And I looked at it, and I came up with, it would cost me $250,000 to live in Manhattan. Why? Well, I was used to having a nice place to live, so I would probably want to get a 3-bedroom apartment with balconies, more than one, on a high floor in Midtown Manhattan, where you had a garage downstairs and you had doorman and a valet and all that, so you were safe in there. And it was probably going to run about 8 or 10,000 a month to get one with a parking spot. Or maybe I'd get one for 7 or 8,000. 3,000 wouldn't get you much more than a small 1-bedroom, and it wasn't worth it. You can't park your car. If you go to the garages, you can park your car. But if you were going to go out for the evening and you wanted to have dinner at a restaurant like Sardi's or some nice name brand, one of the famous steakhouses or one of that stuff, you're going to have, for 2 people, you're going to have a bill of probably $300. And for park, and then you want to go see a show, it's going to be another $300 for 2 good tickets up front, so you don't need binoculars, right? A live show or some sort of a play or whatever. And your parking's going to be $75 for that amount of time, and you're going to have to go wait maybe a half hour to get your car out of there. So what a lot of people do is, and you might have to park and walk 4 or 5 blocks to where you want to go, and now you're walking in the snow and the rain and the cold, and you don't know who's on the streets over there. And if you're carrying a gun over there, it's going to be a lot of trouble for you. So, I mean, it's so much money to live like that. So what a lot of people do is they buy a car. Like, you don't buy a limousine because there's too much attention. They buy like a Lincoln sedan or some kind of regular car or an SUV. And they hire a driver. And the driver's like a driver and a messenger. So what does that cost? Well, with benefits, and you're probably spending about $3,500 a month, maybe 4,000, probably 4,000 on the driver. And, that's about what you're going to spend, because you got to get them benefits and stuff. Okay, so you buy the car, you're parking it in the garage, which is probably costing you $800 to $1,000 a month. But that's built into your rent. And you want to go someplace, he pulls the car in the front, you come down with the elevator, you get in the car, and he You tell him where you want to go. I want to go to Bloomingdale's, and blah blah blah. You drive you to Bloomingdale's. You get out, and he goes and hides someplace by one of the rivers where the cops won't tow the car away. Probably has to sit in the car. Sit in the car means he could, if it's a nice day, he could stand outside the car with the door open. They'll probably won't get mad at that. Although sitting in the car is what the cops would prefer. And he waits for you to call him. So when you're ready to leave the store, you call him. You say, I'll be ready in about 5 minutes. And then he drives over there. And he pulls in front. If you're there, you get in. If not, he goes around the block and then again and again until you connect. And then you go. And if you're going to go run around getting your private parking, running around over there, and it's costing you all this money, you may as well just pay the chauffeur. So anyway, I digress here. So I just adding in other things. So I couldn't live there. It was too stupid. And I was going to live in Boca Raton. So I went and visited somebody in Boca Raton. And what was Boca Raton like? That's where the rich Jews live in Florida. It's a little bit north of Miami. It's beautiful. It's very pretty. The streets are very scenic. It has a lot of nice restaurants that are extremely expensive. And it has a lot of nice stores that are extremely expensive. And a lot of housing that's extremely expensive. And it's just a question of a bunch of Jews getting together doing nothing, sitting in restaurants and going to the beach. And so I wound up in North Florida where you were near beaches, and it was rural, it was redneck, it was easy, it was safe, everybody had guns, which means you're in a safe place. If you live in an area where everybody's going around with guns, it's safe. In the 60s in Florida, everybody was doing, with the pickup trucks, everybody was doing Easy Rider with the guns. They put a shotgun in the back of the window of the cab of the truck on a mount. Or some people had a shotgun and a rifle if they were going to, jack some game. They saw a deer. So people had guns, and, you see, an armed society is a safe society. It's safe when you have that. So it was very safe, going around at odd hours of the night over there when they had the Easy Rider guns in the car. The only problems that I can remember is dogs would get loose at night and walk around and they might bother you, but usually not. If you were in a car, so what? They wouldn't bother you. I remember driving a motorcycle at night and they run after the motorcycle. So you got to accelerate, and then you got to be careful if you're hitting a stop sign and, Fido is chasing you. You can't exactly stop for the stop sign, If Fido weighs 12 pounds, you can. But if Fido's a good-sized dog, you got to run the stop sign. So what we're looking at now is 60.92% of the lower 48 states are in drought. So that's like 61%. Okay? That's of May 5. Today is May 8. So it's 3 days old. I would not exactly call that stale information. If you start adding all the states of the United States in, which is going to be Hawaii, Alaska, Puerto Rico, maybe the U.S. Virgin Islands, I'm not sure, you get a figure of 50.9%. But I wouldn't use that figure. I would go with the 48 states. Forget Alaska, forget Hawaii, forget Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. you're at 60.92% has a drought. And drought goes with fires. And he's going to dry the waters up. It says that in Jeremiah 50:51. And he says the Lord will kindle fires in and about the cities. And there's new fires breaking out all the time. And now with the drought, the fires are going to get worse. Will Trump talk about the droughts? No, because people are going to immediately turn around and say, what are we doing about the drought, Mr. President? He'll say, I don't know. I'm putting sanctions on Cuba to open up my resorts. I don't know. You know. So Trump isn't talking about it. That doesn't mean he's not aware of it. It means he's not talking about it, not that he's not aware of it. But he's not going to publicly talk about it because what's he going to do about it? Run hoses? So it's a problem, isn't it? The Hamas and the disarming, what Hamas is saying is they're telling them the mediators that they need to make sure the first stage of the agreement is in place, and then they'll begin before they begin the second stage, which is disarmament. So they're claiming that Israel's not honoring the first stage. It's nonsense. Yeah, it's just nonsense. They're always the saints. Everybody else does bad, not them. Trump told the Iranians, well, he publicly said a statement which got to him, that what happened last night was just a love tap. Yeah, and that's really a good sign of negotiations are encouraging, right? See, would you be friends with a person who said that they were a believer and they lied all the time? Would you be friends with a person like that? You're not supposed to be in fellowship with somebody who says they're a believer and behaves badly all the time. He who loveth and maketh a lie, those are the people that don't get inside New Jerusalem. You don't want to hang around with people like that. If they're not saying they're a believer, you can hang around with them because, how can you witness to them if you can't be around them, okay? But if they're saying they're a believer, it's no good, okay? So Trump says he's a Christian, right? And what does he do? He lies and lies and lies and lies. That's why I tell you, you shouldn't vote. You vote, then you become a partaker in the sins of the people you voted for. The Iranians did say that the UAE did hostile action last night. So it appears that the UAE may have attacked Iran somehow, some way, some shape or form. But there was no specificity about this. There was a big fight last night. This is something that I say ignore, but I'll tell you what it is anyway. Secret CIA analysis. This secret CIA analysis, how did it get out? Come on. Revealed Iran can survive months of blockade, still has 70% of its missiles. It might have that much. It might have half. I don't know. Iran will be able to survive the U.S. blockade for at least another 90 days, and perhaps much longer, according to the intelligence agency Washington Post reports its economic situation is really not as dire as claimed. It already has built new missiles. Well, that's why it's got 70% then. Let me start with deleting stuff, or I keep going backwards here. See, if the blockade that Trump put on was really worked hard, it wouldn't be the case. If that is in fact the case, which I'm not so sure. Pakistan opened up 6 ground routes to get goods in and out of there. Airplanes are flying goods in and out of there, and they're running trains in and out of there. See, if Trump clamps down on that stuff, then I think it's going to come to a quicker end. But now Iran's bringing garbage into the deal, and they're dumping the oil into the Persian Gulf, which is going to contaminate and destroy the life of the Persian Gulf, right? You can't have a body of water with oil in it. So the Iranians said that they hit the American destroyer USS Arleigh Burke. I guess that was the original Arleigh Burke destroyer. But Trump says they all got out of the Persian Gulf safely. So we don't know what happened. We're getting conflicting reports. So who do we believe, right? So why is Trump running around constantly saying we're negotiating, it looks good? It doesn't give me any indication that there's real negotiations or that anything looks good. I don't know who would think that is the case. Looks like things are getting worse, and throwing the oil into the Persian Gulf to contaminate it is certainly making things worse. Trump was using the term like a butterfly dropping to its grave. Now, what kind of person has thoughts of a butterfly dropping to its grave? Do you ever have a thought like that? It's macabre. It's depressing. I mean, somebody that thinks like that is definitely a person that thinks about death and killing and all that. Sick thought. I never have thoughts anywhere close to that. And Trump is saying if they had the chance to use a nuclear weapon, they would use it without question. But they never. But if they. Wait a minute. But they'll never have that opportunity. And just like we knocked them out again today, we'll knock them out a lot harder and a lot more violently in the future if they don't get the deal signed fast. Our 3 destroyers with their wonderful crews will now rejoin our naval blockade, which is truly a wall of steel. President Trump, well, he is stopping the ship movement. That I gotta give it to the guy. He is doing that, but there's a lot of leaks in the blockade. The leaks are, you know, the aircraft, the land corridor from Pakistan, which might be bringing missiles and weapons in from China. I mean, you don't know. And the aircraft flying in and out. The report, one of many reports, I think, is saying um, Islamic terrorist regime is dumping oil into the sea. As we warned, and I warned, the regime has run out of storage capacity. For days now, they've been taking uh, tanker transfers while pouring massive amounts of extracted oil straight into the ocean, deliberately, criminally, environmentally, catastrophe. It's got some bad English there, I think. They are literally poisoning the sea. This is ecocide in real time. Yeah. So we were reading, remember we were reading Iran's going to run out of storage space in 3 days? That was at least a week ago, right? Well, all of a sudden that story went dead, right? Why? Because they're dumping in the sea. And Trump doesn't want you to know that they're dumping in the sea. And Iran doesn't want to tell you because that's going to get bad press. Contaminating a body of water like the Persian Gulf is very, very, bad press for Iran or anyone else. So why talk? They're not talking about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. Trump is definitely going to get a lot of the blame for that. They're going to say he should have left it alone. He should have left Iran alone. Others are going to say he should have blown Iran up. And, it's a mess. Trump is basically not able to resolve this correctly. Um, because he underestimated the insanity of the Iranians that everybody in the Middle East knew. We all know they're nuts. I'm checking if I have any questions. Somebody said doesn't have cancer. Um, he is. He is a dead. No, I think he does have cancer. He tried to hush it up, but it got out, and the court heard about it or something. They're trying to decide if he's out of his. Like maybe cancer. For some cancers, is extremely painful, and he might be taking 3 or 4 what do they call it, oxycodone or something a day, or morphine a day, and then they could declare him out of his mind. Can't run a war when you're taking oxy, right? Okay, there is a prayer request. Let's see if I can figure out who it's from. Well, that name is a bit rough. Okay. My Heavenly Father Jehovah, I pray for the person that put this prayer request up in the chat, and part of their screen name is got the number 13742 in it. I would pray to you, my Heavenly Father, that this person's asking for mercy on the family and to restore broken organs and that of a daughter as well to a brand new one. So I submit this prayer to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you guys can agree with this as well. Long suffering. We covered that yesterday as a fruit of the Spirit. And I know a lot of you people are, self-included, are not, we know about long suffering, of course. We're in long suffering. Okay? A lot of us have had very bad health issues, self-included. A lot of us. A lot of us are still experiencing bad health issues, self-included. And we're the humble, the meek, the weak. These are the ones that the Lord's going to raise up. If you were running around and you didn't have any problems and everything was great, I'd scratch my head and say, what? That's not the way we are as a group. We're all busted up. And I'll show you that in a minute. Let me take a quick break. Those are the elect. And I'll be right back. No, not yet. So it's actually a good sign. The strong, the proud, that's not the elect. Not in these days. Now, there was times when you were proud in the Lord and you weren't arrogant proud, but you didn't have these problems, right? But these days you do. All right. We can do it very direct in Zechariah 12. The siege, very direct. It's early on in the chapter. Well, we'll read the chapter. The burden of the word of Jehovah for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretches forth the heavens and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. Well, it appears that the trembling is for the people round about surrounding us, the enemies, okay? But I think the people themselves also will be scared based on Jeremiah 30. This is Jacob's trouble, Zechariah 12. Great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. He is the 12 tribes, okay? Gog and Magog is not that. The women get raped, 200, they get raped, half of Jerusalem goes into captivity. That's not exactly getting saved out of it, the houses get looted, and in that day, it's always that day, which is not the great day of the Lord. It's the day of vengeance. Will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people, all that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces. Now remember, those were the days with the Romans and the swords, then that's how they got killed. You got cut in pieces, Though all the people of Haaretz, that could be the land of Israel or it could mean the world, be gathered together against it. Well, if it was every nation in the world against it and they all get destroyed, I don't know, I don't think there's enough room to fit them all in there. They probably come from nations and stuff like that, but I think it's predominantly the surrounding nations that are on our border or very close to our border. In that day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment. Gee, does that sound like their cars have no more gas, so they're using horses? And his rider with madness. And I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah. That's who's in the land now, the house of Judah and Levi. And will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And the judges of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, they added the words in, shall be, it says, the judges of Judah shall say, let me get you this correct. It really says, say, heart, inhabitants, Jerusalem, strength, Jehovah of hosts, Elohim. Okay, so it's really saying that, not saying the word my strength, that, or shall be, my strength shall be. It's stating the inhabitants of Jerusalem's strength is in Jehovah. Okay? They have this Schofield twisted, you know. In that day will I make the governors of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall devour. How about burn up? Better translation. They shall burn up all the people round about on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall, again, this is twisted, shall inhabited, ode, again, I guess you could say, inhabited again, in own place, even Jerusalem. It's just, ode, to say ode means again, it can mean again. How does Strong's put it in English? Continuance is better. Yeah, like old poem, the problem continues. Yeah, you could say that. So it's a continuing. It's not again, it's continuing. So they continue to stay there. See, we don't get run out of Jerusalem. What they're doing is the translators are trying to fit it to Schofield, which is nonsense, but that's what they're doing. Then we're in verse, now when you read about them burning it up, there's two of them burning it up, and who do you know has fire coming out of their mouths? There you go, it's right there in front of you. So two witnesses, and people are trained by the bad teachers to think that the two witnesses don't emerge until the Gog and Magog days, and that's not true. You read it right here. Jehovah also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them feeble. Okay, let's look up feeble. 3782. We'll go with what Strong's uses in English for this. Weakness through the legs, especially the ankles, by implication, falter, stumble, faint, fall. Bereave, be decayed. Okay, you got the idea, right? The feeble. And he that is feeble. Okay, so we'll start again. We're in Zechariah 12:8. In that day, that's, I guess, the day of vengeance, Jehovah will defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And that's not exactly the case when you read about Gog and Magog in Zechariah 14. Of course, the church doesn't teach you Zechariah 14. Excuse me, but it is Gog and Magog. Half of Jerusalem goes into captivity, and that doesn't sound like Jehovah's defending them there, right? Okay, so we could just right away know that's not it. The inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them in that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as Elohim, as the angel of the Lord before them. Who was the angel of the Lord before them? The angel of the Lord with Moses and Aaron that would move, and then they would pack up the tabernacle and follow him to the next location. He went before them. That's Michael, the most powerful angel, the glory God of Israel. He has the name Jehovah in him. That's in Exodus 20, verse 23, or Exodus 23, verse 20. It's one of the two, but it's in there. So he has God's name Jehovah in him. So he could receive the offerings in the name of Jehovah. He killed something like 140 or 180,000 people in one day. David killed that Goliath piece of junk, and he also killed the bear and a lion, and it was a great warrior. Okay, and that's who the feeble become like, and what happens is the appearing of the Lord, and they get the everlasting life, and they're young again, and you change. That's it. And that shows up in the verse 10, as we'll soon see. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. Yeah, that's the end of it. That's the culmination of the recompenses into the day of vengeance. Now, so the inhabitants of Jerusalem are the feeble, and then the house of David gets raised up mightily as well. Okay, now we go to verse 10. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. So now he poured a spirit on them. They're believers. And then what happens right away? And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. That's Yeshua. Remember, they stuck a spear in his side, and water and blood came out. And they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son. Well, the word son is added. It's only. And shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn, Yeshua is the firstborn son. In that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem as the mourning of Had Ramon in the valley of Megiddo, and the land shall mourn, every family apart. Now, okay, and it talks about the mourning. Now, there was no mourning, mourning like dead people mourn, right? You mourn the dead. That never happened when they killed Yeshua. All the families mourned, all of Jerusalem was mourning him. Come on, that's nonsense. Don't let anybody sell you that. So, when he appears in the clouds and you're a believer, and notice he pours his spirit out on them before you get changed into a body with everlasting life. Okay? All right? And then you're going to be young again, and you're going to be like the baby calf jumping out of the stall in Malachi 4. You're going to have great kind of strength and endurance. Everything will be different. You're not going to have immortality. That happens in New Jerusalem, where you eat of the tree of life and drink of the water of life. But you will be very young and vital for an extended period of time. But the only period of time you really need to make it is the 70 years till the second 70. Daniel 9:24 is up, and then you're made it into New Jerusalem. And then you'll see there'll be a nice, cheerful, orderly procession to the tree of life, which is probably going to be one big honking tree. Remember, New Jerusalem's like 1,500 by 1,500 by 1,500 miles up. It wouldn't surprise me if the tree was a mile wide or something like that. More, maybe, who knows? Maybe the tree goes up 20 miles. I don't know. You got me. I don't know. But it'd be quite something to see something like that, and you eat from the tree of life, which God said in the garden, let's get Adam and Eve out of here before they eat from the tree of life and live forever like we do in their sinful state. That would have been very, 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 very bad. So, Satan's next move would have been the tree of life. Put them into a sinful state and then put them into an eternity in that sinful state. That's what Satan's move would have next been. Okay? So, God got him out of there. That's why he had the angels guard the entrance so they couldn't get back in. He didn't want them getting to that tree. That would have messed up the plans for redemption massively. This is why we got redemption. If that happened, we wouldn't have had it. If Yeshua didn't do the work that he did, dying for us, we wouldn't have it. But we did, and we do have it. And this is the hope that the apostles had, was this. They had a lot of other hopes, being in heaven and everything else, but this was the one they were looking forward to, because they know this preceded New Jerusalem. And you see, they didn't have a good concept of timing. Not that I always had a great concept of timing either, but it's very difficult And they thought all this stuff was going to happen in their days. They didn't know. Maybe some of them did, maybe some of them didn't. Some of the writing makes it look like they were thinking it was going to happen soon, real soon. But we don't know. Maybe not. Miss Barks a lot's out there barking to herself. I don't know who she's barking to. So, the siege is the redemption's at the door, and when the siege is now, we have the siege already. It's not in its fullness, but we got it. Okay, the surrounding nations are all against us, but when I mean, we're going to need Elijah and Enoch to emerge, and they burn them up, and they're in Israel, all right. Don't worry about that. They're waiting for the light to go green. The day they burn them up, is that the day of vengeance? Likely. It's very likely. I expect it is. Is it possible that they get everlasting life before? Well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they do, but I can't guarantee it. I think Apostle John already has it. That's why he's still living. It says there be some among you, but it really says someone. When you check the words, someone among you that will not taste the death till they see the kingdom of God. That's John, Apostle John. Then we got the anointed prince, but he dies in Daniel 9:25 or 26. He dies right around the time of Gog and Magog, so he'll be with us for a number of years. He'll be from the line of David. He'll be a really good guy. Wouldn't worry about it. So you'll have Enoch, you'll have Elijah, you'll have John, you have the anointed prince, and I think those are the four horns. In what is it, Zechariah 1, 2, the four horns going after the horns of the Goyim, terrifying them. That's who I think the four horns are. Okay. So, we're in crazy times. I don't believe Trump's negotiation stories about Iran. I just can't believe it. And I think now it's going to get worse because Iran recognizes the fear. Okay, I'm going to get a prayer out for us. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers and households and families, well, for our households now. And I pray that we would have your strength, stamina, and endurance, and your healing and recuperative power flow through us. And for us and our animals and pets, we'd be safe, secure, happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I pray I could do better videos. I pray we all learn the Bible better and know the Bible better. I pray those of us that need jobs find them, good jobs. Those of us that need clients and customers find them, and that we all have adequate money plus extra. And I pray we all have your peace, and we have more faith and more wisdom. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And if you're a believer, you can agree with this. And please pray for me. I'm doing my travels to get the public and private welfare. Things are looking okay. Things are opening up. I've got to keep taking different excursions to different entities. It's hard for me to get around. It is. And for the vision and other things, it's really hard, but I'm doing it. The Lord's helping me, but it's not fun. So pray I get through all this, please, and then I can get the benefits that I'm supposed to get, but they make it nasty for you. You got to travel all over the place to get it. It's hard. I guess they don't have any other way of doing it. So please pray for that. And let's do some spiritual warfare. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father Jehovah. I loose off of me and my wife and all the true believers in households and families any curses or witchcraft or spells is all cast null and void, and there any such things designed to affect any of us that I named directly or indirectly are cast null and void of all time, for all time. No value, no effect forever. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that. And if there's any unclean spirit in any of us or our families that I've mentioned, I command these unclean spirits that come out of these people immediately never return unto them again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Somebody's been trying to attack me via phony emails, so I appreciate it if you would raise spiritual warfare against the people trying to attack me by email. They didn't get anywhere. They're trying. So just lay it on them. You know, I already did. Lay it on them good. You know. And lay it on them good, and everyone that's helping them, everyone that lives in their house with them, and everyone that works in the same business as them. Let them have it. You know, give them the whole enchilada. Okay, so this war is gonna flare up. Iran's gonna go down, and Iran has to go down before Jeremiah 30 verse 11 or Jeremiah 46 verse 28 goes. It has to go away first, because the Elam scatters into all the nations where they get destroyed. The sword follows them and cuts them off in all the nations, but there needs to be nations to scatter into. And remember, we don't know God's timing. We don't know the day of the hour, so don't try to plan and pick it and say it's going around saying it's 2.5 or 3.5 years or 5 years or 11 years is as bad as saying it's 2 weeks or a month. None of us know. Don't assume that you know the rate of speed God's going to do it at, because you don't. You don't know his timing, his rate of speed. We don't. You don't. Nobody does. So we gotta remember that. I'll try to find out more about Netanyahu's cancer issues, and that's it, guys. I'm out. So I send my shalom, my Shabbat shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. Thanks, guys. I hope you got something good out of it.